What is your name?
My name is Geoffrey McQueen
All right. Where did you grow up?
in Warren, Michigan.
Okay. Who are your parents?
Roger and Marilyn McQueen.
Okay. Um, I guess what happened to you after birth? Where did you end up? How did you meet your adopted parents?
Well, after birth, I was given up for adoption, and that was, and I was adopted through Lutheran Social Services.
Okay.
hmm
Um, a brief story on how you grew up and
I
your
grew up
experience.
like any middle-class American child. Had a very happy upbringing with my parents, and nothing extraordinary. We did a lot of beautiful things, camping and traveling, and it was a really good experience. They raised me well.
All right. Did you always know that you were adopted?
I did. My parents never held that fact back from me. Ever since I can remember, they've always said that somebody loved me so much that they gave me away.
Okay. At what age did you question your past or wonder where you came from?
I think I always questioned my past, but at about 18 is when I really started to actively try to seek out information regarding my past.
Okay, so can you tell me, like, what happened around that age when you were trying to discover your past?
I was about ready to leave on a trip overseas, and I needed a passport. And when I went to turn my paperwork in, the government rejected my paperwork because my birth certificate was not a quote unquote original birth certificate. So I tried to get my original birth certificate, but that was sealed because of my adoption. So I had to opt for a non-identifying information and order of adoption through the county that I was adopted in, and that had my last name, my previous last name, on that paperwork, which sparked my interest even more.
All right, so were you in college at that time?
Well, I had received the information prior to me starting college, so it would have been the summer between high school and college.
All right. Um, After you found out your last name, what did you do with that information?
When I came back from overseas, I decided that that would be a good time to look into researching that. So what I did was I went to the Detroit Public Library because there was no internet at the time, and I pulled every phone book for the Tri-County area in Detroit. That would be Wayne, Oakland, Macomb County. And I looked up that last name, Kalish, and I wrote every single one down, including addresses and phone numbers. So, but that was back at that time, 18 years prior. So anything could have happened in that 18 years. People could have moved or etc.
Did you try to call those numbers, or what happened with that?
I did. I tried calling each one of those numbers, and ironically, the one person who it was like I called the number that was Kalish in Royal Oak, Michigan, and they just flat up hung up on me. And I was very, I kind of identified myself, saying that I gave them the gist of the story very briefly, and that was the person that hung up on me, which I thought was really interesting.
Was there a gap in between those phone calls and when you went to go look, or the time you actually went out to find her? Can you tell me like any experiences you've had?
Yeah, I had a couple strange experiences in college, but in regards to this, basically I stopped searching at that point. Once I received the rejection of that phone call, I stopped searching completely and sort of shelved the whole thing for a while. In 1989, the fall of '89, in October, it was my senior year. I was looking to have some fun with my roommates, and all of a sudden I had this strange feeling that my birth mother was in the room. And at the time I knew that she was quite young, and I thought, that's really strange. It was almost like, her ghost was there. It was weird. That night I had a dream. In that dream, it was a woman that appeared to me in my dream who I'd never met before. She said, "I don't know you. Do you want to know about your past?" And I said, "Yes." And then I said, "What's your name?" And she said, "Sue Ann." And that was the end of my dream. It was just very brief, and but that's what sort of sparked me again onto finding more about my past.
And after that spark, that fire was started,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, where did that take you? What journey did you take to try and further understand your past?
Really, I just had gained a renewed interest in it. I really didn't have much to go on because, again, it was, there was no, I felt like I was out of options for research at that point. But what I did was I called Lutheran Social Services, and I asked for some information about my parents to open the file. And the lady called me back. And so she said, "Yeah, there's some stuff in your file." And she read me a few things. She sent me a few things in the mail. But moreover, I had asked her, I said, "Is my mother's name Sue Ann?" And she goes, "It is. How did you know that?" And I said, "I can't really explain that to you, but I knew that her name was Sue Ann." And that was the last conversation I had with that. And I was telling some people at work that story, and there was a lady that said, "Oh my gosh, I graduated with a girl with that same last name," and she brought a yearbook in, and sure enough, it was the same person.
When you say same person, do you mean like you just saw Sue Ann Kalish, or was that the first time you saw a picture of your mom? Or?
It was the first time I saw a picture of my mother was in this lady's yearbook.
Okay, and do you know what school that yearbook was from?
Yeah, she went to Lake Orion High School.
Okay, so did you try to go to Lake Orion, or what happened?
I did. I decided that I would make a trip to Lake Orion. I had never been there before in my life, but I just knew it was north from where I grew up. So I took a ride there. I stopped at I found Lake Orion High School, which was weird. And being in the summertime, I knocked on the door, and of course school was out of session. But a janitor answered the door, and I explained to the janitor exactly why I was there, and that my mother had been a student there, and I was sort of in a search or a quest to find out more about my past. And they let me in. I wandered the school. It was interesting that they actually did that, but I guess those are different times. And I heard like a pounding in a locker, and that was near a home ec room, which I thought was kind of interesting. And then I left the school.
Once you left the school, where did you go?
So I decided I would try to find the house that she lived in or grew up in, knowing that would be a slim chance that somebody might be there. But and again, I didn't know where I was going. I had never been there before, but it was almost like I was guided to the street. It was kind of like a turn here feeling, and so I did, and then I made another turn, and then I came across her street, which is not a very large street, but it was on the water. And so I saw the house, had the address, and there was an old man next door. I was taking his garbage cans in, and I said, "Excuse me, do you know the Kalishes? They live here in this house?" He says, "Oh no, they moved away a long time ago." And I said, "Okay, well, I am Sue Ann Kalish's son." And he's like, "No, Sue Ann had a daughter." And I said, "Well, Sue Ann may have had a daughter, but she had a son prior to that, and that's me." And he stopped and he said, "Hey, do you have a minute?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And his name was Mr. Burke, by the way. Invited me into his house and said, "Nobody knew about you. your grandmother and my wife were the best of friends. You were sent, your mother was sent away because of the shame of being unmarried and being pregnant at the time. And they sent her to Nevada to live with another cousin so that no one in the area could see that she was pregnant, to kind of save her that embarrassment, I guess. And Mr. Bark showed me a picture of my parents at prom in 1964. He kind of told me about my parents and how they were very much in love, and they spent a lot of time together, a few years together, and then she got pregnant with me, and my grandmother broke them apart.
What age was your mom when she was pregnant or gave birth with you?
She was 17.
Okay. Besides the photo of your birth parents at prom night, did Mr. Bark give you any other information or anything you could use to find your actual parents?
He did, actually. He gave me a some information to find my grandmother, who had moved from the house next door to Florida. And so I had an address, a name, obviously, and a phone number. So I called that phone number immediately and left a message on their voice machine. And I received a call back. And they were very interested in meeting me. They were in Michigan at their cottage, ironically, which again was kind of more divine. That this all was just happening days after days. Everything was falling into place, like dominoes, just falling into place. And so I had an opportunity to meet her. And ironically, it was in Royal Oak at the address and the phone number where the lady had hung up on me. Now, that was my mother's aunt's house.
Did you speak with your grandmother there, or
I did, yeah. I got to meet my grandmother, so her mom. I got to meet her brother and her brother's children, and her aunt, the one that owned the home. They were all very nice. They kind of, the grandmother sort of told me a story about how she had broken apart my parents, and how my mother really pined for him and me her entire life. And she realized that was probably a mistake, but someone else's pain and grief of not knowing what had happened was probably greater than mine, my curiosity of finding out about me.
While talking to your grandma and your grandma's aunt, did they have any specific questions to you that you remember?
They did. They asked me about whether or not I had any kind of they call it clairvoyant thoughts or premonitions, things that I knew that I shouldn't know, or things that have happened in my life that were out of the ordinary. And I told them yes, that's something that has always been with me. And I told them a story about my dream, and about how Sue Ann came to me in the dream, and how she told me what her name was. And apparently she possessed similar qualities that waned as she got older, and they've waned quite a bit since I've gotten older too. So, and there were other stories that came around, and memories that I've had as a kid that weren't mine, memories that were my natural father's, which is weird, but somehow we're all connected spiritually.
I guess, just to recap, you had that dream while you were in college, correct?
Yes.
And it was your mother trying to reach out to you?
I believe, yeah.
And what, month was that in?
That would have been the fall of '89.
So around...
It was October.
Along with meeting your grandmother, did you ever end up meeting your birth mother?
I did not. She had passed away prior to me meeting her. That's why she came to me in a dream.
Do you know the time she passed away?
I don't know the exact time, but it was early October, like October 3rd or something.
So the dream you had of her was about the time of her death?
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely.
Do you think there was a connection there?
I do. I think that she had a desire to sort of find out about me as much as I had a desire to find out about her. And supernaturally, I think she was maybe given that opportunity to make contact with me in a dream, I guess. Even though the dream wasn't like, it was almost like I was awake. It was the weirdest thing, but I could see this woman. I saw her. She saw me, and we spoke. And it was not, and unlike, I've never had any experience similar to that since that time period. But I can tell you that I think that it was not just for me to find out about my past, but it was for her to understand that she made the right choice, even though it was difficult for her. And then maybe for her mother to sort of feel satisfied with that choice as well, because I think there was a lot of pain and regret that had gone on in all their lives for that 18 years.
So that would be the entire story of your journey to finding your mother?
Yeah, in a very brief, in a brief account, that would be the story of how it happened.
After finding out that she had passed, do you regret taking that journey still?
I don't regret taking the journey. I think it was meant to be the way that it happened, but I was disappointed. I think that disappointment in the way that it would have been nice to have been able to speak with her in the flesh, you know what I mean? To sort of kind of get her perspective, to hear her side of things, to hear her stories. I never got to hear any of those. I only got to hear other people's stories. And I know that she struggled greatly with that decision, and but I think it was a journey of healing, truly, but not just. It was a journey of discovery for me, which I'm very thankful for. It was a journey of healing for her, and I think a journey of healing for other, like maybe her mother as well, my grandmother.
Why is this story important to you?
Well, it fulfilled a desire to find out my past, which also was, for me, I guess you could say it was healing as well, because I maybe always wondered, what my life would have been like if I had not been adopted. I know it sounds weird, but it confirmed that it was the best thing for me, for sure. And as a result, I got to learn about my past, which was very unique at the time. Not a lot of people had that ability to do it. Now it's probably more commonplace with the internet and stuff. But I think that in the grand scheme of things, it sort of put the pieces together where there were missing pieces, and I'm thankful for that. I feel whole.
Why do you think this story would be important to the listeners?
Well, if there are people out there that either have given up children for adoption, or who are adopted, or just maybe feel that that there's something out there that they need to sort of figure out. It's almost like you need to just follow your intuition and your dreams, and I'm hoping that the listeners or the viewers of this video will understand that we all have our own unique story, and not one story is better than the other, but with any kind of determination, you can fill in the blanks if that's something that you want to do. And I feel that maybe there's somebody that's struggling with certain things, and it's okay to research those thoughts or those feelings and try to kind of come to terms with it, because really this is sort of a big coming to terms with my life, my past, my identity, as a person. And that's okay. So I think it's broad. I'm hoping it'll help people figure out that they have the ability to do the same thing, whatever that is.
So your message for people hearing your story is that hopefully it inspires them to take that first step to find their past and answer the questions that they might be struggling with?
Absolutely, because it does take courage. It was not easy picking up that phone at 18, trying to make phone calls to random people that, I knew, there was rejection there. Thinking, oh my gosh, who would give a child up, right? Feeling kind of like rejected almost by your parents, your natural parents anyway. But as you get older, you realize that, there's a reason why things happen. And, I just didn't have any fear. I just moved forward and it took the courage. It took courage to do what I did, and I'm thankful for it.
Would you say the journey was worth it, even though it was very difficult emotionally and I guess physically without the internet and stuff?
It was very much worth it. And it helped that my parents were cool with that too, because they were always very open with me about my being adopted. So they were a strong source of support as well. It was a good experience, and I'm thankful.
Do you think this journey has impacted you as like a father with your parenting styles or any nature like
that? Well, I think, the example that I had as a father was my adopted dad, the only dad that I really know. And I thought he did a pretty good job raising me. So, of course, you're going to improve on maybe some of the things that you felt that maybe he fell short on or what have you. So I've tried to improve upon those things. I can tell you that it was really amazing when I first became a father to look at someone who I was absolutely related to.
Because you never had that experience?
Nope.
Okay. Well, thank you for taking the time to share your story.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you for asking me to share my story. I appreciate it.